Here's a story of a girl, um, and the place was Dharwad, a little town in South India. So, this little girl was raised in a home where her parents brought her up with love and alongside a lot of rituals of worshipping idols and images of gods. And she went on growing up that way and being obedient to her parents. And alongside, something interesting happened. There was a little red book that was given to her in her school, and she took that book and kept reading it through the pages over and over again. And life passed by, 8 to 10 years went by, and something in that book she found very intriguing. So she went back to that book over and over again. And she came to standard 11, and there she meets another person, a person from the paramilitary organization, together with her in her studies. And there's a connection that was made. And when she met this other person, whose name was Sandeep, she found an instant connect between the person in that book and him. So it was actually the person of Jesus. The character of the person, the way he was, intrigued her. So this lady, this girl, as it were, is now sitting before you, grey, and now she would carry on with her story. So when I met this person, Sandeep, I was able to talk to him, and our friendship centered around this one central figure. And there was such comfort and such hope and such joy that we started relating to each other and to Jesus at the same time. So life went by, and little did I know what was in store for me. That a few years down the line, this friendship blossomed into being life partners. We wanted to become life partners. So, but it wasn't easy. So we come from two different ethnic backgrounds, from two different language groups, and a lot of disparity from different kind of lifestyles. So it wasn't really acceptable by my parents. So then my father stood the ground of a disapproval. I left home on one hand happy that I had made my choice, but deep down in my heart was a burden, a sense of shame and guilt which grew day by day, and I couldn't just handle that. Until one day I met a person, a gentleman, a person who had come all the way from South Africa to South India, who shared about the same person which was in the little red book. And he told me about the meaning of the cross and how I could find a release, find freedom, find an acceptance to receive him. And he told me the whole story of Jesus and why he had come. So I accepted Christ into my heart, and when I did that, something beautiful happened. The shame and the guilt that I carried on for several years, and the burden was removed completely, and I was a new person, a brand new Sudha. And that to me was so special because it was like a miracle. That was miracle number one. And then life went on. Having met this person from that little book who now lived in my heart, I couldn't help but tell others about him. So the first thing was my parents, but my parents were not in talking terms. We had been estranged for 5 long years. But as time went by, I believe God worked it out that my father came back to me and he received me into his arms, as it were. He took me back home. It was one of the best days of my life. And I believe that this same God, my Savior, my Redeemer, and my best friend who lives in my heart now caused that to happen, being a miracle too. And then my father took ill, seriously ill, as in terminally ill. And I had been sharing with him about Christ indirectly and directly at times. But when he took ill and he got really worse in his condition, I resigned from my job and went over to his place every single day, offering him this very beautiful truth, who was a person to me now, Yesu. And I kept sharing the hope and the life that he offered. My father listened, ill as he was. So again, I shared with him and I called out to my father, who was in a semi-conscious state, and I asked him, Dad, here is life, and here's what Jesus has to offer you. Do you want to believe? And in his quietness, hardly struggling to lift his finger even, he said, he nodded. That was such a beautiful moment of my life, because only the next day I held his hand, and with hope in my hand, with hope in my heart, I just committed him into God's hands, and he moved on to his forever home. So there is miracle 3. So miracles are for sure in my life. And in summary, all I want to say is thank you, Gideon community, for your compassion, the compassion that you have, the passion that you have shown, even like the God of the little red book, and for the friendship, for the sacrifices that you all depict. So thank you from my heart, that from that little red book, the author of life came into my heart, and from my heart he goes out into the lives of many, many hundreds actually, in my family, in my city, in my country, and even beyond to many places.